Hello, back for social studies class. Um, so yesterday we talked about Athena city, right? I posted a video for you to watch, like a review of what we talked about yesterday. How Athena became the god of Athens, the city of Athens. Okay, so how Poseidon and Athena competed for it, but Athena won the competition because of the gift she gave the people in that city. What was it? Yes, the olive tree, which has become very useful for them because they can use it for many things. Food, they can use it for, keeping their homes bright because they use the oil to lit their lamps, right? And also they use it for what else? For taking a bath, right? Cleaning their bodies using the oil. All right, and today we're going to be talking the Athenian democracy. Okay, I'll be reading, and please listen. Okay. So, do you know what's democracy, class? Democracy is a form of government where people or citizens in that country or that city involved in the public affairs, okay, like making big decisions for the city, making big decisions for the country. It's not just a one person's decision, but it's a uh, the citizens of that city involved, okay, get involved. Now that's democracy. So Athens was a democracy, just like our country. It's a democratic country, United States, right? So uh, when we need president, we vote for president. It's not just someone would say, I will be the president now, okay? You can't do that in a democratic country, okay? So people decides what's good for the country. All right, so what do you think life if you are a citizen in Athens, class? Since Athens is a democracy, like they practice democracy in their city. So what do you think? Because you remember that city states the in ancient Greece was made up of different city states, and each city state has its own leader and their own rules. And Athens was a democratic city. Now, let's find out what a citizen's life might be in on a typical day in Athens. Okay, so you'll be hearing about Neso. So Neso was a citizen of Athens, and we're gonna be um, following his life for a day. Okay, so when Nessos opened his eyes in the morning, he could see a gray rectangle where his open doorway was. The sun would soon be rising. It was time to get up. Nessos could hear the sounds of his wife, children, and slaves in the central courtyard. A slave came into the bedroom carrying the tunic and robe Nessus would wear for the day. A tunic is a kind of like a long sleeves with a collar that military men or soldiers or important people wore at that time. The slave lit a lamp that burned olive oil. Nessus pulled on his tunic and wrapped his robe around him. He put on his sandals and laced them up. He ran a comb through his dark short hair and his beard, and then he went downstairs into the courtyard and across to the dining room. His family joined him for a breakfast of bread, cheese, and fruit called figs. Okay, a fig is a kind of fruit. I don't know if you tasted figs, but probably it's a good fruit. Okay, I haven't tasted it. So Nessus also drank a cup of wine mixed with water. So he did not drink a coffee, but he drank a wine. Usually people drink coffee in the morning, right, class? And although the sun still was not up, Nessus was in a hurry. as he left the house, one of his slaves called after him, "You forgot your caution." Nisus smiled gratefully. "Thank you. It would have been a long, painful day without this." So he grabbed the caution and walked quickly toward the center of the town. You know what's a caution, class? It's like a small pillow. Okay, so some people use it when they're traveling so that they can sleep comfortably. And even in the drivers, if you have a car, maybe some of your parents have a cushion that's put on the seat so that when you sit down you can be comfortable with it. Now that's what he was bringing with him, a cushion. Now many other men, citizens, slaves, and free men were headed in the same direction. So citizens are the people who live in that city. Slaves are those people who are serving other people, like helping them with their needs. So in a modern time, they were called helpers. Okay, they're called nannies. Okay, so those are people like helping in the household. And in the ancient Greece, they called them slaves. Okay, so the center of town was called Agora. It was a large open space surrounded by long walkways that had roofs held up by columns. When Nessus arrived at the Agora, he looked around quickly. Tradesmen were busy setting up for the day. Tradesmen are people who's doing business, okay, selling things. Now some shops and buildings around the agora were set up, and each man had something to sell: food, pottery, clothes, haircuts, slaves. Okay, so agora is like a kind of like a marketplace where people gathered around, and you can buy anything in that place. If you've ever been to fair, okay, it's like that, a fair. So everything could be found there. You can buy anything, and even slaves. So in ancient times, these sell slaves. Like, you remember when Troy was destroyed, all the men were killed and the women and children were sold to slavery, correct? So that's what it is in the ancient times. They buy slaves. Now, other men, okay, Nessus walked quickly through the agora, greeting familiar people, like people he knows already, and then went to the nearby meeting place for the assembly. Other men, all citizens, streamed into the outdoor meeting place and found places on the curved rows of stone seats. So they're sitting on their seats were made of stones. So that's why Niso brought his cushion so he could sat on it. Now soon several thousand men were gathered. Not all of the citizens of Athens were present. For many people who lived in the country, it was a long trip to the center of the city. So for others, they came from far, they have to take a trip to get to the center of the city just to attend this assembly. So these people could take part in the assembly only once in a while. Others could not afford to take time off from their work. So that's why not all citizens were there, because some people worked also. And it happens only once in a while. So it must have been an important meeting that people really rushed to that place. Remember, thousands of men, right? So several thousands of men were gathered. Now, it was dawn and time for the weekly session to begin. To start things off, a priest came out and sacrificed a pig to Zeus. Once the place had been purified with this sacrifice, the meeting could begin. So before the meeting could begin, they have to sacrifice a pig. So there's a priest there. A priest is a religious figure, like leader of a church, or head of the church, like pastor. Okay, so those religious person, and they have to sacrifice a pig so that they can purify the place before the meeting begins. That's what the Greeks believe. Now, the citizen who had been chosen to be in charge of the meeting read aloud the first thing for the assembly. to decide about. Okay, so there's a person in charge, and he will be the one reading the things that they need to talk about in the assembly. Now, the assembly was to decide whether to use some of the city's money to build a new temple in Athens. As the oldest man who wanted to give his opinion stood up, a slave started a water clock to time his speech. So they use a water clock to time themselves when they're giving a speech. They don't have a clock like we have now. Okay, they don't have watch, but they have a water clock which they use. Now the man spoke until all the water in the water clock had run from the higher bowl into the lower bowl. I want to see you that, to show you that. Where is it? Where did it go? Anyway, I'll show you later, okay? So, I was supposed to show you the clock. I'm sorry, class. Now, so the man spoke, and then when he's done, when the time is up, so he sit down, and then he stopped and sat down, and now the next person went on and discussed the new things, gives his opinion, and when everyone who wanted to speak had spoken, the man in charge of the meeting asked who approved it. So those who approved it raised their hands, and then those who did not approve raised their hands too. And then they decided, okay, whoever has the more hands that raised, okay, that's the winning side. So this time the more people raised to agree to use the money to build another temple. So Neso was pleased, so he's happy about it. Now the meeting's leader moved on to the next question, and then it's not only one thing that they discussed. They went on and on and on until the sun went, like, it's afternoon, and then the sun set, and then they're still having the assembly. So it's like an very long day. Okay. Now Niso was tired and hungry. Not everything he had voted for had been approved. Not everything he had voted against had been defeated. But he had an important part of his city-state and an important voice in the democratic government of Athens. Now, not all of Nesso's votes has been approved or has been defeated, but he was glad that he's part of that assembly to decide great things for their city. So that's how democratic government in Athens plays. Okay. Now, I want you to think, like, if you are a citizen in Athens, what would be your life for a day? Okay. I posted that one on your on the site, so please take a look at it, and yeah, enjoy the rest of the day, class. Tomorrow we'll be discussing the second part. Okay, this is the first part of Athenian democracy. Tomorrow there's more to come, and we'll talk more about it. Okay, bye bye.